Good evening. Welcome on a rainy, cold night. Maybe we'll finish before the sleet and the snow comes in. Chris. Tonight we're honored to have David Linton Sr. Since he has a son that's an employee with the county. David serves as the chaplain over in our jail. And I ran into him, I think it was on Thursday, and invited him, and he said, yes, sir. So David's going to give the invocation for us.
First, I want to thank God and you fellas, especially Commissioner Waters, for the honor to pray the invocation at this first meeting of the brand new year. My name is David Linton, DC Sr., and I have the honor also of serving Everett Christian Church as their pastor. I also have the honor of serving the people of Beaufort County through Sheriff Hammonds in his office as for the deputies and for the detention center. And I've got to add the professionalism that the sheriff and his staff have showed me has impressed me, and I thank God for them. And I thank God for y'all. And I know between all of y'all and all of them over there, my wife said don't say all of y'all, I just said all of y'all. The county's in good hands. Amen? Let's pray. Dear God, as we gather for this commissioners meeting, we ask for your wisdom and clarity. May your Holy Spirit guide the discussions and decisions made here tonight, ensuring that they serve the best interests of our community. Open minds and hearts to new ideas and help us work with integrity. And most of all, whatever we do, let it please you. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, David. At this time, I'll call our January Board of Commissioners meeting to order. And at this time, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Richardson will lead that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item of business is the conflict of interest disclosure statement. Does anyone have a conflict with any items that's listed on the agenda? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll move to the approval of the agenda. The amended agenda is in front of you. I would ask for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor of the amended agenda, raise your right hand. Thank you. Okay, we're down now to the attorney vote and the swearing in. Brian, are you going to lead that?
Yes, sir, if that's acceptable to the board. So you have in front of you the legal services agreement that outlines the engagement of the firm for the county attorney services. This is very similar to the existing agreement the board had with Mr. Francisco. I'm happy to go through the small changes that occurred. There were some edits that Attorney Sasson asked that be made, and I'm happy to go through those very quickly. Like I say, they're very few. First of all, as you start on the first page, it talks about the firm instead of just the employee or just Attorney Francisco, because at that time it was just him. So it talks about their firm. It changes the initial term to January 6th of this year till December 31 of this year, subject to mutual extension. It lists Attorney Sasson of Jones and Sasson as designated as the county attorney, but the firm essentially is serving in that role. It changes everywhere there's a his to her. It does amend the hours, and I think that was actually something that had been proposed by Commissioner Richardson during the discussion. So under the agreement with Mr. Francisco, which went into place December of 2014, the hourly rate was $200. The hourly rate for the firm is $250. So that reduces the hours from 400 to 336. There is an additional change in that Mr. Francisco had documents produced at $150, and this one is $250 per document. And then, of course, they list that they bill at increments of quarter hours. The other, I wouldn't say significant, but a large change is that on number 8, it does identify that there are other clients that the firm represents. And that there would, in their conflict, any conflicts they would look at as they represent clients, and they would make sure that they were not in an adversarial role with any of those. They added, of course, they don't discriminate on the basis of religion, sex, or race. And that is basically all the changes that were to the proposed agreement. And we would recommend your approval. I would tell you that I went back and pulled a quick CPI data sheet, and I looked at the $200 that Mr. Francisco was charging you for this contract in December of 2014, and it rolled forward under CPI. And as of today, it would have been 268. So you're below where the CPI was on that. So you have the agreement. This is obviously the board's decision. The county attorney serves at the board's pleasure and is appointed by the board. And I'll answer any questions you may have. Otherwise, I'll leave it to your decision.
I just wanted to be sure for clarity, I'm the one that made the motion to increase the amount.
No, I was saying that when the discussion, because there was a when you interviewed the second attorney, there was discussion about the hourly rate, and the discussion, what you said was just reduce the number of hours. You would just divide the hourly rate by the total amount. So we're not paying any more than what we had originally proposed to pay, unless you run over on hours. So instead of it being 400, it's 336.
Well, I would take it back to the Bible in the parable about the picking of the grapes. At that point in time, we were negotiating with one attorney. We had negotiated with Sassnut as a separate item. So I don't think that these two things should be co-mingled.
I have a question.
Yes.
What happens if we have a problem with dealing with another town, say a town whose zoning is in conflict with our needs as a county to move forward in economic development? How would that be handled? Does our attorney represent us, or does their attorney represent them?
If I may I first?
Yes, please.
So happy to speak to that. So typically what has occurred is that your county manager will make application to the town for any rezoning requests or text amendments. We have a Chocowinity Mid-East Commission who renders opinions, and they submit to the planning board for any zoning requests or amendments that are made. And then they tender an opinion to the board. And so that historically is how that has happened.
Well, there's another conflict with that because the Mideast Commission also represents us.
I'm aware.
But that's just an opinion. What if we have to have an adversarial relationship with any town that you may represent in this county? Would you go with us, or would you side with them?
The state bar ethics are clear on that, is that I would have to withdraw from both. I could not represent either party.
All right.
Well, before we vote on this contract, I have a statement. I want you, as our representative, to understand that you represent each member of this board equally, that some of the practices that have gone on in the past will not be tolerated in the future. And that is consulting with 3 or 2 or 4 people in the back room, and then this coming to the commissioners. That is not going to happen ever again. And you need to be keenly aware of who you represent. And it's each member of this board equally coalescing into the whole board.
Understood, Commissioner Richardson. And as I stated in my interview, I certainly understand your request there and would not ever be in support of anything that was in contravention of the law.
I'd like to say one other thing. One of the things I typically frown down upon is polling commissioners by email. I mean, you have a record, but we're not in open session. So I think each commissioner who's elected by the people should be in front of the people when they make decisions. So I would ask that you please refrain from polling commissioners on what might be their predilection as to how they would give opinion on anything that is the people's business. Because I think it's, in my opinion, it's in clear conflict with open meeting law.
I don't disagree with you, Commissioner Dethridge, and I can imagine that it would be my place to poll the commissioners. That is my place to advise.
Brian?
Yes, so just to speak briefly to that, I don't know that the county attorney has ever polled the board for anything. And anytime that we may do that, we do it under an emergency situation where there needs to be a decision made quickly based on the timing, and then we always bring that back to the board for ratification.
I've been a commissioner for 10 years, and I've never been polled by the county's attorney during that 10-year period. So, other questions, discussion? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve contract.
Got a motion to approve contract, and we also have a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Those opposed?
What was it?
That's one.
I think it was.
Okay. At this time, we'll have the swearing in.
I, Amanda Sussman. I, Amanda Sussman, do solemnly and sincerely swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution
Do solemnly and sincerely affirm that I will support the Constitution
of the United States,
of the United States,
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina
and to the government thereof,
and to the government thereof,
and that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend
and that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God.
to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God.
I, Amanda Sussman, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will well and truly serve the state of North Carolina in the office of Attorney for Beaufort County. I will, in the execution of my office, endeavor to have the laws fairly and impartially administered, so far as in me lies, according to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God.
I do.
You're welcome.
Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, at this time, we're going to have the service awards presentation, and that's going to be done by Katie.
Good evening, gentlemen. Our first person tonight that we would like to thank is Jamario Artis, 5 years with the Sheriff's Office. Our next person is Catherine Dickinson with 10 years at the Sheriff's Office and the county. Our third person is Andre Cole with 10 years at the Health Department. And We have Sherry Griffin, 10 years with the Health Department. And we have Elena Hall with 20 years. The finance department. We all love it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate all you guys.
We have a few others that are not able to be here with us tonight. We have Ashley Hamilton with 5 years through DSS. Sarah Graham, 10 years at the Health Department. Angela Respis, 10 years at DSS. Curtis Best with 15 years at the Water Department. And Anna Parker, 5 years at the Health Department.
Thank you very much. Katie, you did a good job. Okay, the next item is the tar PAM wastewater discharge requirements. Brian, you're going to introduce our presenter.
I will, yes, sir. Thank you. Please, the board. Mr. Adam Waters, I'm sure a lot of you know Mr. Waters. He's Executive Director of the Tar Pan Basin Association and the retired former Public Works Director for the City of Washington. So he's here tonight to answer questions about the Tar Pan rules, proposed rule changes. I will note that in your agenda, you have the PowerPoint presentation that was presented to the Environmental Management Commission on November 24. You also have the rule description and their proposed revisions, as well as the Tar Pan Basin Association letter that was sent on behalf of the association.
Good evening.
Welcome.
I am here at request to discuss the rule revisions that are proposed in the state, at the state level. But before we get to the rule itself, I would like to just make a little introduction of myself and go through a little bit of the history of how we got to where we are with the rule. Again, I am Adam Waters. I am a lifelong resident of Beaufort County. I was born here, raised my family here, and worked my entire career here. Again, I worked with the City of Washington for 31 years. Retired in 2022 as Public Works Director for the City of Washington, and started a consulting business, H2OS Consulting. It's a project management firm that assists clients with projects from conception to completion. In 2023, I was asked to fill the vacated position of Executive Director for the Tar Pan Basin Association. The Tar Pan Basin Association is a nonprofit corporation that consists of a consortium of permitted wastewater treatment plants that discharge into the Tar Pamlico River Basin. There are currently 15 members of the association, and they are all municipal wastewater systems. These systems range from Oxford, North Carolina, in Granville County, all the way down to Belhaven here in Beaufort County. Now, the association was organized in the late 1980s as a response to some pending regulatory changes that did have lasting financial impacts on the communities that these wastewater systems serve. With the support of the elected bodies of these systems, the system operators collectively negotiated with the, at that time, North Carolina Division of Environmental Management to create a memorandum of agreement, and in lieu of having nutrient limits in the individual permits of these permittees. Now, this MOA, which went into effect in 1990, established a nutrient trading program between the members in the association, and while still reducing the amount of nitrogen and phosphorus being discharged from these members, it reduced the amount of nutrients by 30%. The MOA established a collective annual cap for nitrogen and phosphorus for each one of these members, and as the membership as a whole. The MOA was renewed in 1995, again in 2005, and then in 2015. Each renewal process during those renewal periods provided an opportunity for either party, the state or the association, to open up and negotiate changes in the agreement. Now, after the 2015 amendment, the North Carolina Division of Environmental Quality informed the association that it was not going to renew that memorandum of agreement again, that instead it was going to put all of the verbiage from that agreement into a rule. The reason they were doing that is they said that the agreement actually met the definition of a rule. And also the legislatures said that the agreement was not enforceable. So if a member or the association as a whole failed to meet the requirements of that agreement, if it's not in a rule, it's not enforceable. So in early 2022, or excuse me, late 2022, early 23, North Carolina DEQ and the association began discussing the revisions to an existing rule, which is 15A NCAC 02B.0733. It was decided that the existing rule would be revised to include the language of the MOA. Now, the existing rule was already in place. It was adopted in 1997 and revised in 2020, and it currently addresses facilities that are not covered under the MOA or are not members of the association. So over the past 2 years, the association has met with DEQ, including up to the director, Richard Rogers, to discuss the verbiage and negotiate how this rule would be written. Once the association was satisfied with the verbiage on the proposed rule, it was then carried to the state's Water Quality Committee, and then once it passed that committee, it went on to the Environmental Management Commission, where it has passed. So where we're at today, the proposed rule is in the 60-day comment period. That comment period opened up the 1st of January, and that is open until March the 6th. There's also a hearing on the rule, a public hearing that will be on February 6th at 6 p.m. at the Pitt County Agricultural Center. So that's kind of some history on where the rule, how the rule revision was developed. The rule revision affects municipal wastewater systems that have nutrient requirements as part of their permit, and that's where we are. So I will entertain any questions that you may have.
Well, I just have one question. It's a curiosity question. Are there any charges or fees? For instance, I understand one plant may be surpassing another plant, having better quality water. Do they get paid something for that, or are they just sharing that as a member of the cooperative?
They're just sharing that as a member of the association. The association does have dues. Those dues are based on the quantity of wastewater, their permitted flow limit, not on their performance.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So how does industry impact this ruling, such as Nutrien or National Spinning or other places like that?
Currently, National Spinning was a member of the association years ago when they shut down their wastewater treatment plant. They came out of the association. They no longer have a discharge. Nutrien, they have their own discharge permit. They are covered under the existing rule. They were not part of the association and are not part of the rule change.
Good. Randy?
Is the river cleaner now than it was 30 years ago?
That is, of course, a matter of opinion, but Commissioner, I remember as a kid going out fishing and not catching anything. We can go out tomorrow if you'd like, and I think I can put you on some fish, if that answers your question.
And the next day,
And the next day.
and the next day. Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item of business is public comments, and Katie, to my knowledge, we have no one for public comments. And then the next item is the legislative updates, and Senator Brinson and Representative Kidwell are not here. So we're down for the items for consent. Is there any item that you would like to pull for further discussion?
Further discussion, and I'd like to go ahead and do it as soon as we finish this, rather than having these people sit here all night. Item 3, budget amendment, health department. Item 4, budget amendment, health department, and the work first electing county status.
Okay. Anyone else want to pull one of the items? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the items for consent for the other 7.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? All right. You want to come on up, Janelle? And we'll start out with the first budget amendment. That's on page 34.
33, isn't it?
No, 34.
Yeah, surplus legal.
Well, okay, I can ask the same question on page 34. How many, this is a question generally for the county, how many of these hybrid cars have we purchased? I didn't realize we had any hybrid vehicles.
Health Department's the only one that has hybrids.
How many do you have?
So we have 3 left, and to my understanding, those were all purchased before I got there, and it was with non-county dollars.
Yeah, but I just don't think we ought to be purchasing hybrid vehicles.
I'm here to surplus mine.
Are you?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, the board, how do you guys feel? Should we be buying these things?
I think we've taken some action. Yeah, Katie's shaking her head. Yeah.
What do you mean taking action?
I think you brought it up before, and we actually have a vote.
Yeah, the last Prius we got rid of, that, I think that's when
Okay.
the discussion came up.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I had forgotten that. I've been here a while. There's a lot of things
That's
I've
okay.
forgotten. Okay, well, that takes care of my question there. I just didn't think we ought to be buying those things.
Okay, well, wait a minute. We're going to need a motion since it was pulled. I need a motion and a second to.
Make the motion.
Okay, we got a motion. And you seconded it.
Well, now, 34, does it go through 35? That's a different item on page 36, isn't it?
Yeah, there's 3 different items you asked to pull. So on this one, we're dealing with the vehicles. So we got a motion and a second. All those in favor of the surplus vehicles, raise your right
Surplus
hand.
vehicle?
Yes. Okay. All right. And then the next one you wanted to go to was on page 36.
36 has to do with, this thing looks a little funny to me. A budget amendment for health. This is for a $336,000 grant per year for a 3-year period of time.
Am I on the wrong? Okay, hold on. I have 2 budgets. So are we on the grant one?
On 36
Hey, it's page 36. and I-
from the Department of Justice.
It's the
Yes, the 336,000.
990,000.
Yeah, so it's 336,256 per year for the next.
All right, I just want to be sure that we're not going to get, has to do with drugs, and, we're spending all of this money to help these people with drugs, and I just have a problem with our strategy on drugs because it is not working. We're not going to wind up with this thing says that we will be including syringe services.
Mhm.
Are we going to wind up with a supervised shoot-up room?
No, sir.
Because that's going on in some places.
I understand that, but no, sir. This is solely just to reduce harm for drug users. And that is solely the purchase of needles, but also other things like alcohol swabs and Band-Aids and things of that sort.
We're going to be providing free needles to dope addicts.
Yes. We do that now currently.
We're going to be providing more free needles to dope addicts.
Yes, sir.
How do you see this program being expanded? I would really, probably the best thing for you to do is to come back at the next meeting and give us a report on how you're actually going to be spending this money.
Sure. Well, I can definitely do a breakdown. The last time I presented about the reclassification, we're talking about the grants. This is one of those grants that we were talking about. So a majority of this money, and I will gladly break down and can send that actual email from the grant breakdown to Katie if we want to send that out. But a majority of this money actually is going to our behavioral health to get a behavioral health nurse and a new behavioral health mental professional because we've had a wait list for over a year of about 25 individuals. So that's where a majority of this money is going.
Yeah, but in the last 2 or 3 years, haven't we hired 2 or 3 people to work with mental health?
We've had one mental health professional for the past 3 years, and she is a one-woman show. She is booking the appointments, creating them, seeing them, following up, all the things. And so we're trying to get her some assistance so we can really work at that behavioral health wait list that we have.
Okay, so you got a budget
Yes.
made up on how you're going to spend this 300 something?
Yes,
Okay, that's what I want to see.
Certainly, I can share that via, is email okay?
You send it, yeah.
Okay.
You send it to Katie, she send it to all of us. Okay. And the personnel that you're going to be hiring under this,
They would all go under Alliance staff. Currently, like our other mental health professional is, they won't be county staff. They're through a public health alliance agency.
they're a contract employee.
Yes, sir.
They don't add to our FTEs. They're not a county employee.
See, this is where I have a problem with this stuff. How many Alliance employees do you have?
4.
Right now?
I lied, 5, excuse me, 5.
Okay.
We've had one for about 10 plus years because we continue to get that funding. 2 through the opioid settlement funds, and actually one of those was beforehand. And then behavioral health the last 3, going on 4 years, and then our community health worker. So there's 5.
But when we do the budget, I think all of the contract employees of this order should be included on a page in the budget with each of these departments.
I think we've provided that in past years.
You did?
Yes, you've asked for it. We provided it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I didn't see it fleshed out as a separate item in there, but okay. All right. I just want to make sure we're not slip sliding into some of this really bad stuff that's going on in a lot of places where they are having supervised shoot up rooms.
I understand. And I can tell you success stories from the syringe exchange itself is, yes, we meet them when they are in a place they don't want to be. And by building that trust, we've been able to help direct them to other treatment and care that they need. And now so much as your peer support specialists that you have in the community, they started there too.
Okay. And this grant's guaranteed for 3 years. No county money going into it.
No county dollars.
All right. That takes care of me.
Some to approve. Okay, a motion to approve and a second. Any further questions? Yes.
The lady that you said that, the lady that you said that do all the schedules and everything,
Yes.
and since she's overwhelmed,
Yes.
how many people does she see? Do you have a documentation? How many people you see?
Yes. So I actually did the behavioral health report today, and she saw about 89 in November. And that's 89 appointments, because obviously some of these individuals
Didn't show
need more than one place.
Okay.
No, more than one appointment.
Okay.
They might come multiple times a month.
So it could be the same person 4 times.
Right. But I can tell you from the report, we have majority of them come at least twice a month for their needs. And she assesses all that. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, did we get a motion? And we got a second too, didn't we? All right, anyone else? All those in favor of the budget amendment to accept this grant of $999,865 over a 3-year period, please raise your right hand. Okay, thank you. And we'll go to the next one, which is Work First Elected County Status. That's on page 38. Hood, you want to ask that question?
My question to them?
Yes.
Okay, I guess it's more of an informational question than anything else.
when will we see the new agreement that we're gonna be operating under for, Work First?
So that agreement will come back to you all after the committee meets. You have the attached committee members. Once they've met and they approve it, then we'll bring it to you all
When do
next
you think
month.
that'll happen?
So the committee meeting, is scheduled, if, the commissioners approved it tonight, the committee meeting is scheduled for next Monday, the 13th. And then the plan has to be submitted back to the state by February the 10th. So that's what we were trying to present to you.
Are most of these people already serving on the committee? Because that's kind of quick to get together to,
Some have served in the past. There was a few that we had to reach out to that are new members, but we've already reached out to everyone on the list. So
No.
they're aware.
now, when you bring this back, are you gonna have an analysis of how many people that Work First has gotten off of Work First onto a job and are not continuing to work the system? And I believe you had a 2-year period in the last plan that you could only get benefits from this program for 2 years and then you were off of it.
There is a time limit for the Work First Family Assistance recipients. The majority of the cases, the Work First Family Assistance recipient cases that we actually have current are child-only cases where it is grandparents that are actually receiving for grandchildren. Those grandparents are not required to meet the job search requirements as the employment services cases. I think about last month, we had approximately 6 employment services cases. So over the last several years, our caseloads have dropped tremendously for our Work First recipients. I do understand, you're concerned about the quick turnaround time for the meeting. However, based on the requirements that the state has provided, we have to take it for public comment. And so we have a very quick turnaround time in order to be able to meet the state guideline or deadline that they provided for February the 10th.
One other question that seems kind of odd to me. We're talking about a Work First program. Children don't work. So how do children get tagged into a Work First program? Is this just a way of providing assistance to grandparents that need assistance for taking these children in, or?
Yes, a lot of the cases for these child-only cases, or if you want to chime in, are the cases where, our staff the Work First Family and Assistance worker works with the social workers. These children have been placed in the home with these grandparents for Child Protective Services or child welfare. And so these grandparents may be needing assistance. In this plan, we actually have a program that assists these grandparents that may be needing beds or, whatever that they may need in order for
Well, it just seems odd for it to be a Work First program and it to go in this particular direction. It looks like we should have people that are drawing social services that could be working, that should be in the program.
So for the employment services cases that we have, that's part of our plan. Our staff works with those employment services cases or households and parents and assist them in looking at what barriers they may have in order to seek employment. We work very closely with NC Works as well as Beaufort County Community College and work with that household to see what they need in order to become self-sufficient. Some may need GED classes, or some may need just some basic interviewing skills. So it really depends on the family itself as to what barriers they have.
We have provided a variety of assistance over the years to these people on Work First, even to the point of having taxi cabs take them to work and things like that.
We have. We also have a program in this plan that will assist as long as an individual is working. If they may have a problem with a car, we want to make sure that they are able to keep that employment. So we do have a program that can offer assistance within certain guidelines in order for car repairs to make sure that they keep that employment.
All right. Thank you very much.
I have one question.
Yes.
I know the answer probably, but I need to ask it anyway here at open session. Do any illegals apply for work? I mean, do you seek to help illegals with Work First?
So for the Work First Family Assistance, we always, anybody can actually come in to put in an application. We cannot discourage anyone from actually applying.
However, we do have to look at the eligibility requirements to determine their eligibility for assistance. If they are not a legal resident, then there are.
A legal citizen.
There's
a difference between
if
a
they-
legal resident and a legal
If they are
citizen.
not a legal citizen, then they are not eligible for the Work First Family Assistance. Unless it's just for the child. So for Work First Family Assistance, we may have, a parent apply for several children. If the child themselves are actually eligible and born and are a citizen, then they may be able to receive for the child only.
Is there ever a situation where there's an illegal who has a child that goes without and we are helping that family through that child?
When you're saying going without, are you referring to like a child welfare?
Yeah, I mean, they have needs, right? They're here in the country illegally, but they need assistance or subsistence, both.
I'm not sure I quite understand the question. Are you saying, do we help the child?
But you help the family through the child. I mean, in other words, the child's not going to get the money. Family's going to get the money to take care of the child.
So,
But the child was born in another country. It was brought to this country and is living with hopefully its parents. But, you know, there are roughly 360,000 children in America that are missing right now, currently missing in the last 4 years. So, yeah, there's no guarantee that that would be the case. Now, I'm not trying to confuse the situation, but we have been told before that no illegals are on welfare. And then if you really break it down as to money being allocated through the child, the benefits that the child receives, then families are getting assistance from the taxpayers of Beaufort County and North Carolina and the United States.
for all of our programs, even for food nutrition services as well as Medicaid, if a parent has a child that is not a legal citizen or resident, but they have a child that was, born in Beaufort County, for example, they are able to, as long as they meet all other eligibility requirements, they are able to receive food and nutrition services for that child that is a citizen, as well as that child may be eligible for Medicaid.
So, in other words, that child would need to be an anchor baby before, and that's just a way of looking at it. Some people call it an anchor baby. Some people call it, you're born here, you're a legal resident. There's some discussion as to what constitutes a legal resident, as to whether they're born here or not.
So for all of our programs, it is we actually have to look at the policy to determine, we may have someone that may be here legally, and they may be a resident here. So we have to look at the guidelines for the policy to determine their eligibility. Just because they're only receiving for a child, yes, they may be receiving, any one of the programs, but they may not receive as much, like for food and nutrition services, for example, they may not be receiving as much as a parent would that was actually a citizen. So they may still be receiving, but they may not be receiving the same amount that someone else would be if that
So
parent
there
was
is
single.
that opportunity that people that are here illegally will be getting assistance.
They could be receiving assistance for a child that is a citizen. Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor of continuing the Work First electing county and approve the Work First Planning Committee members, please raise your right hand. I'm sorry.
So moved.
I was thinking we had that.
Yeah, I forgot to.
Okay, got a motion and a second? All right. Now, we'll take a vote. You got that, Katie? All right, all those in favor, raise the right hand. Thank you. Okay, we're down for items for decision, Health Department, vehicle purchase. Janelle?
Hello again. As you see before you, we would like to request the purchase of 2025 Chevy Equinox. This vehicle will be purchased using no county dollars. We did receive 2 quotes, and the quote we got from Lee Chevrolet came in lower than the NC Sheriff's Association contract price. This Equinox, I know it's not up here, but it would really help going to health fairs and things of that such to have a bigger trunk than a Prius to put things in, and to travel. And to have a car that our staff would like to drive.
Motion to approve.
Yes.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second, and the question,
Go ahead, go ahead, I'm finished.
You sure?
anyone,
Discussion after the budget.
Go ahead, yes, sir.
anyone with a question?
I'll
Yeah.
finish after.
Okay.
This car replaces the car that you surplus.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else?
You say no county dollars, but where's the money coming from?
It's coming from, the Division of Public Health.
Anyone else?
Okay.
Okay, we did get a motion, right, Kathy?
Yeah.
Good. They get me confused. All right, everyone in favor of the purchase of the new 2025 Chevrolet Equinox, raise your right hand.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the economic development, Susan?
Good evening, Commissioners. First, item on the agenda is the Rural Building Reuse Grant on behalf of Agape Health. We applied on their behalf in October 2024. On December 5th, the governor announced a grant award of $200,000. Under terms of the grant agreement, Agape will provide primary health services, create and maintain 20 jobs within 18 months, and complete building renovations within that 18 months. Beaufort County Economic Development will administer the Building Reuse Rural Health Commerce Grant, and it is the recommendation of our office to accept the Commerce Building Reuse Grant Award of $200,000 and to create a project fund for Project Wellbeing, also known as Agape Health.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Thank you.
Thank you. You want to go to the next one, Susan?
Yes. In 2024, our office updated site due diligence studies for the Beaufort County Industrial Park at Chakawinity. Two of these studies, a master development plan and geotechnical subsurface exploration, are eligible for reimbursement under the Duke Energy Carolinas Investment Fund grant. Total cost of those studies was $23,100. Acceptance of these funds will replenish the economic development contract services budget. Therefore, it is the recommendation of Beaufort County Economic Development to approve and accept the Duke Energy Carolinas Investment Fund grant and corresponding budget amendment requests for $23,100.
You've heard the recommendation. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Is this work that has already been done?
Correct. And paid for.
Again, this falls into the category of building the building pad before we know what we want to build. This kind of geotechnical work, subsurface exploration, geotechnical work, it really has to be site specific. So, when we get into these things, I'm going to be looking at these things a lot harder in the future because as far as I'm concerned, it's wasted money. If you don't know where you're going to build what, how do you know where to drill the hole? So, I supervise and do this kind of work. So I'm going to be looking at the budget real hard this coming year for this kind of stuff because we're just wasting money.
The subsurface exploration was for the entire park as a whole.
Well, we won't debate that. You wasted, the money's wasted.
Anyone else?
Brian.
Brian? Okay. We got a motion, so we're in the second, so we're ready to vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. Thank you. And you want to go to the next one on the economic update?
An update of activity within economic development. Since July 2024, we have responded to 13 RFIs, also known as Project Requests for Information. We submitted the Beaufort County Industrial Park at Chocowinity for 10 of those RFIs and submitted the Washington Beaufort County Industrial Park for the other 3. We were unable to respond to 20 other RFIs. 16 of those specifically requested a building with sizes varying from 50,000 square feet to 650,000 square feet. And the other 4 requests were for greenfield sites with sizes ranging from 400 to 1,000 acres. Our office is administering 3 building reuse grants through the Department of Commerce. And in August 2024, we were successful to close out a long-standing grant from 2016. We continue to collaborate with our Beaufort County Workforce Development Team, which consists of representatives from NC Works, Rivers East Workforce Development, Beaufort County Schools, Beaufort County Community College, and the North Carolina Division of Employment and Independence for People with Disabilities. That's a new name and it's a long one. We meet monthly to address workforce issues and host a job and resource fair every spring and fall. Our office facilitates the weekly meeting of the Aurora Industrial Park team. The park has been paved and near completion. The town of Aurora is pursuing additional funds under the existing Industrial Development Fund grant from Department of Commerce to cover unexpected costs totaling approximately $175,000 associated with Duke Energy providing electrical service to the park. Commerce personnel are working with the town and Mideast Commission on this amendment. A company is in discussion with the town to purchase 5 lots with an option to purchase 2 more. The mayor expects to have a signed contract and construction starting early 2025. This purchase will reduce the total cost of the Duke Energy service invoice to the town of Aurora. Our Beaufort County Economic Development Advisory Committee meets bi-monthly with our next meeting Thursday, January 23rd at 4 p.m. In September, we hired an economic development specialist, Caitlin Sauls, and she has signed up to start her North Carolina Certified Economic Developer coursework through NCEDA and ECU. Her first class starts January 22nd. We continue to partner with EDP&C Representative Sarah Bernhardt on existing industry site visits. We have one scheduled this Thursday with Farm America to discuss training grants through the state. And as you may recall, they broke ground in November on their new 20,000 square foot facility and expect completion in August. In December, North Carolina Department of Commerce released their county tier designations for 2025. These are mandated by state law and determine economic development state funding opportunities. There are 3 tiers, with tier 1 being most distressed and subsequently tier 3 the least. Beaufort County will remain a tier 1, and tier rankings are determined by 4 factors. Average unemployment rate over the last 12 months. Our current rate is 3.6%. The second factor is median household income for the last available 12 months, and ours is $54,415. The percentage population growth for the last 36 months, we are at negative 1.18%, and finally, the adjusted property tax base per capita for the most recent taxable year, that's $172,268. They also released the average private sector wages for 2025. We increased from $46,336 to an annual wage of $47,723. And with that, I welcome any questions.
Did she answer your question? You had one later on the Aurora Industrial Park.
Well, the progress on the Aurora Industrial Park, I was saying before, we're gonna close out that, capital fund.
As soon as they sell property, we'll be able to close out our loan to them. I mean, we're waiting on purchase of property.
Have they completed the construction of the sewer and are the streets paved?
The streets are paved and they are awaiting funding for the electrical to the sewer.
The sewer pipes that were installed?
Yes, the infrastructure
You
is
say
there.
the electrical, do they have a pump station? Is that why they're waiting on
Correct.
the electrical for the pump station? What about the water system? Is it installed and ready to go?
Everything is ready except for the power to that pump.
Okay, so they need to sell some lots.
Yeah, so we're a little cross on the things we're talking about. So for the county's loan to them, it was based on a repayment. Once they sold property, we were to get those proceeds. They ran short on funding because they had assumed that Duke Energy was going to go in and run power at no cost with there being nobody in the park. And Duke said, not unless you have somebody in the park. So that's what they're working to get straight.
Okay, I got you. Thanks.
But I'll stick around and I'm happy to answer additional questions.
I think you've answered my questions, and that is, the project is not sitting there because the project. For a while, was just sitting there with nothing going on and nobody was in charge and it wasn't moving, but, you know, the water's installed, the sewer's installed. They're just waiting on their management to get their management problems straightened out.
Correct. And Commerce has weighed in and they're in favor of the additional funding. I believe the paperwork has to be to them by January 10th.
Okay.
So they're on board.
All right. Thank you so much.
And the college is pretty close to starting sometime the first part of the year on their building project. So,
Yes.
Did they purchase that lot from?
Yes, they are.
I mean, they are. I thought they had already closed on that.
The college has closed. The fire department has closed,
So that's two lots.
too. And
So
the
we hadn't recouped no money from those two lots.
not that I'm aware of. But Bullhead Corporation is under contract, and then we have an additional subject willing to buy 5
The
lots.
contract was, when you sell a lot, until the county is paid off, the money comes to the county.
That's correct. All proceeds from sales come to the county to pay off the existing.
So you
loan.
sold two lots,
That's correct.
and we haven't got any money yet.
Yes, those funds come to the county.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what I did. Thank you.
any more questions of Susan? Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Okay, we're down to Public Works.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think I'm pitching the next one. I think there was one more question in there regarding the rezoning request.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so just a little bit of history. So we get everybody back on the same page. February 6th of '06, there was a motion introduced by Commissioner Caton to include the 277 acre parcel along 17 south of Harris Acres for the industrial site into Chocowinny's ETJ. Commissioner Caton, Langley, Tedderton, Booth, and McRoy voted in favor of that. Commissioner Dethridge and Richardson voted opposed to that. So that was in February 6th of '06. The North Carolina General Assembly, session 2005, House Bill number 2524, which was ratified and became effective on the 30th day of June 2006, allowed for that, created that ETJ expansion, and included the industrial park, the Chocowinny Industrial Park, in the ETJ of the town of Chocowinity. When that occurred, the town of Chocowinity then became the body that controlled the jurisdiction there. And they zoned that. It is currently zoned L1. There was discussion by this board in October of last year that there was some concern that maybe that needed to be a heavier industrial. In October, I met with the planning board over there in the town of Chocowinity. We proposed moving or enacting a new zoning category, new zoning use of heavy industrial. That was heard by the planning board. The planning board approved moving it forward to the town commission, town council. That went to them in November. There was a public hearing in November. Since that time, there was some discussion at the time. They didn't take any action that night. They have since taken action to approve heavy industrial zoning category, heavy industrial zoning use. They pulled a couple of the uses out of the category that they weren't in favor of. I think one of those was like an animal rendering plant. They said, you just don't need that, no matter where you put it. So there were a few of those that came out. So they do have a heavy industrial zoning category. They did not approve rezoning the current industrial park L1 to a heavy industrial. They made an overture that there was consideration that if the board would consider making a request to use the railroad as the dividing line, they might consider changing the western part. So everything west of the railroad line to the parcel line would be heavy, and everything to the east coming back this way towards 17 would stay light industrial. We've had this discussion. I provided you all that information. Again, my recommendation to you on that is that you not do that. It just doesn't, I don't see that we gain an advantage by taking a piece of property and subdividing it and requiring that one be different than the other. We may have a company that wants to come in and take the entire piece of property, and we don't want it half divided with different zoning categories. So where does that leave you? That again, it goes back to the fact that you as a board of commissioners control what's in unincorporated Beaufort County, and municipalities cover and have jurisdiction over what's in their municipal boundaries and in their ETJ. And the town of Chocowinity has declined to carte blanche change that to a heavy industrial. So there's some ability to negotiate with him on that. I'm not sure that's where you want to be. I think you harm yourself more with that piece of property than you do just looking at it and leaving it as an L1 under light industrial. I don't know that we've had any viable economic development projects come to us that were not able to locate there because of the zoning. We had one that we did not deem as viable simply because of several things that occurred that would not have met it simply because of that, but it wouldn't have met it to begin with. It never would have gone anywhere. It wasn't a viable project for other factors. So, I mean, if there are, you can negotiate with the town. I think they're pretty firm on where they want to be. Again, my recommendation to you, and I think the Economic Development Board would tell you that you probably don't want to split that. I think the only other thing you could do is more of a nuclear option, and that would be to go to the General Assembly and ask them to pull that out of their ETJ and put it back the way it was, and then it becomes Beaufort County. It comes out of their ETJ, but it would take an act of the General Assembly to do that. You would have to reverse that local bill that was done back in '06. And you well know that you would, first of all, you would need this board to vote to approve to do that, and then you would need the support of your legislative delegation to do that. And I don't know where that falls. So that's kind of those are your options, I think.
Mr. Manager, I don't disagree with anything you said, other than if that thing is light industrial, when it comes up on Commerce's screens, I think there are a lot of people, you get taken out before you get started. You never know that you had a chance at some of this stuff. That's the only rub that I see in it. I agree wholeheartedly at this point that we go back to the legislature and ask them to repeal that and let the county have it. And economic development is plenty of justification for that. And I think that's the only way we're going to get where we want to go, because we all know what it is to deal with the town of Chocowinity. It's nothing but misery.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with Hood. I've had conversations with our legislators. They don't want to lose any business. And when people come here, we talk about, well, we need a building. We need to have a building. That's got to be a first. I'll tell you what needs to be a first is zoned properly, so that when they want to come, it can be built there. And then you worry about building the building or setting up the spur on the railroad, as Hood has mentioned before. First thing we got to do, first thing first, it needs to be zoned in a manner where if heavy industry, which is going to be happening now that we have a new president, and he wants to build things in this country, and I think a lot of us know that's the only way we're going to be a viable republic going forward, is to be able to do things, make things, be able to work with our hands again, quit relying on other countries that can hurt us and kill us. So the movement in this nation is to build things again. And a lot of things that are going to be built are going to be heavy industrial. Some things are going to be defense industry related. And we're going to need sites such as this, and we need to be already zoned in right to begin with. We don't need another layer of government saying, oh no, we got a problem with that. No, we need jobs, and we need the kind of industry that will keep us safe in this nation. Brian.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So again, I hear some comments from the board about that. Again, I would say to you that you are in a completely adversarial position with them if you go that route. I think, of course, they're trying to make sure that they provide some buffers and are respectful to the folks that live in that area. And I think that we tried to do that as well when we had those discussions with them about the area that butts up against the subdivision. There is some wetlands in those areas. So I think there's buffer there. But in the discussion about this, the challenge we have with that piece of property is I'm more than a little bit disappointed in North Carolina EDP&C, who provides us leads and helps us with economic development clients. It appears that we are looked at, that piece of property is a great piece of property for advanced manufacturing, for railroad access. It's on a U.S. route, but we keep getting things like concrete plants and stuff that is heavy industrial. And it's disappointing to me that we don't get a better opportunity for something like an advanced manufacturing. Our folks are chasing that every chance they get. But I think the highest and best use of that piece of property is something like that. I don't think it's a concrete plant. I don't think it's necessarily a heavy industrial thing where things go bump all night long. I think that based on where it sits, the resources that it has, we got to just continue to keep hitting it, and really go after the folks at the state and tell them they got to do a better job of appointing leads our way for good pieces of property. We've got a great workforce. We've got great infrastructure out there. I don't think the highest and best use is necessarily things that fit in a heavy industrial zoning, like concrete plants and scrap metal recycling and things like that. So that's just my opinion for you. The Economic Development Board has those conversations, but there's still some work that's got to be done there.
Well, at this point, we need to take what we can get. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I've designed a few concrete plants, so they look good to me. Also, I spent 25 years in the mining industry, and I've heard a lot of talk about those dirty old mines and people out there digging those holes in the ground. Well, let me tell you something. You can't have a house without that hole in the ground. You can't have an automobile without that hole in the ground. You can't build anything without that concrete plant. So, I think at this point, we've tried this for almost 20 years. We need to take whatever we can get, but the zoning is killing that property because it comes across in the screen as light industrial, and a frame shop is just not what these big companies are looking for.
So we'll tell you that the town of Chocowinity has said they would consider if we have a client on the hook. Now, of course, that doesn't go to your concern, Commissioner Richardson, that somebody sees it and automatically excludes us. But they have said to us, if you have a client that does not fit with this, come to us and talk to us about it. We may consider it.
Problem with that is it may be too little too late. These guys are looking to move and go, and there's lots of people that will accept them. They have railroads, they have U.S. routes, they have a willingness to bring in thousands of jobs, high-paying jobs for an industry that's not going to go away.
Problem is when you're looking for sites for companies, these vice presidents that are sitting there with these big companies, they have people that they account for, and most of them are very aggressive. And if you can't make a decision right away, they're moving on to something else because they have to perform, and that's the real world. With that in mind, I'm perfectly willing, if the board will entertain it, to make a motion that we approach our elected officials about having the special proceeding bill repealed, turn this property back over to the county so we can manage it and get something done. What are you, 2 miles from Chocowinity's, not ETJ, but city limits, corporate limits? I mean, this thing is so far away, the legislature would never consider today doing what they did then because they've just changed all that stuff about control. So I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion, and I'd like to say the reason Hood and I voted against this back in 2006 is exactly what he said right then. It was just too far away. It looked like a bad idea. But the group that voted for it, they had already made that decision in the back room, and they came out.
That's not true. That's not true. Don't keep saying that.
Well, it was a dumb decision.
It was a dumb decision.
It was really dumb. And now we're going to have to reverse it.
We're talking about this dumb decision. We're not talking about those others.
Any further discussion? Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's anybody else want to talk about it?
We got a
want to go
motion
before me?
We've got a motion and a second on the floor.
Yeah, I know that. Okay. Nobody else wants to go. I think the public's going to look at us in a very scant and disapproving manner if we allow this opportunity that we have in this park that has not sold one parcel of land in 18 years. If we do not try to do something now, we can moan and groan and wring our hands about the way it should be or could be or how we're not getting any help. But we need to help ourselves. We need this plant with all that wetland on the outer fringes, which is your natural buffer and your high ground and your railroad. We need to have a piece of ground where if one group comes and they want to buy the entire 277 acres, we can sell it to them. And if we split it, if we have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, work with us, kiss our butts a little bit, and we'll work with you, that kind of thing. We don't need that. We give up land all the time. We have all kinds of special deals for these people coming to our area. We do not need another layer of government coming between us and opportunities in this county. We are the highest elected officials in this county, and we need to act like it. Now, we made a bad decision in 2006. We need to do what it takes, work with our legislators. They will work with us. I do believe if we are committed to the fact that we need to make this change. All right. Now, I'm going to say one other thing. Yeah, I'm kind of getting back in the real estate business again. And I see from a macro point of view, there's going to be defense industry in a lot of areas in the South. That's where the military is. It's going to be building somewhere close to where a port is. Norfolk's not that far away. Close to where railroads are. Close to where U.S. routes are. This is where the money is going to be spent in this nation. We're living in a very unsafe world. We got a neighbor to our south where the 5th largest employer in that nation, Mexico, is cartels. Now they're either making drugs or killing people. That's what they do. So, or of course, human trafficking. We can't forget human trafficking. So that's to our south. And then we've got Iran, we got Russia, we got China. Defense industry is going to be big in this nation. It's going to probably be in the South. There's a very good chance. So I'm going to do what I can to talk, go around whoever I can, find out who's going to be buying. And if I can cite something in another county, I'll do that. But I would rather cite something in my own county. Okay? I don't want to say, well, we can't do anything here because my commissioners wouldn't vote to have heavy industry. And if we have to go back and redo what was done wrong in 2006, then we should do it.
I think Commissioner Deathridge hit on something that's important, and that is that we send the signal that we support heavy industry in Beaufort County. We should send that signal because we've been sending the signal that we want to pick and choose up until now, and that's why we don't have anything.
Very selective. We're very selective, yet we're tier 1. That makes no sense.
Okay, is there anyone else, Brian, or you?
Yeah, so and I hear what you're saying, but I just want to be clear that we have not been selected. I think you heard Sue present that that we're not turning people away. We're either we don't fit the category, which means we don't have a big enough piece of property. She submitted for every project that was sent down here. We didn't submit on some of them because they didn't have a building or it wasn't a large enough piece of property. So we're not, from a staff perspective, not selecting people. I just want that to be clear. We've had that discussion before.
Can I just say something? I submitted for heavy industrial as well, and I did submit for the concrete.
Call the question.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, all those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Those opposed?
Now we know who's holding Beaufort County back.
Yeah, the two bookends.
Well, I mean, I don't know of anybody that's approached to do something on the site as one big company or corporation since it was purchased. I think there was somebody looking at it when it was purchased, and then the economy went south. To my knowledge, the only people that's approached economic development has been somebody that wants to take 5 acres or some small parcel. And I think the highest and best use is somebody that wants to come in and use the whole parcel. I think where we need to apply the pressure is on our representatives. And we have that opportunity to bring them in here and say, you know, we feel like there's going to be a lot of opportunities during the next 4 years. And we want you to use your political clout to try to open that opportunity. So.
Can you be a little bit more specific in that regard?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I mean, you made a carte blanche general statement. Can you be specific? Because we're trying to be specific. We're trying to get something done here. And you act like you want to do something, but you can't figure out exactly what you want to do.
Well,
Can you be specific?
You make it almost sound like that you're representing somebody.
Yeah, I do represent constituents.
No. I
try to represent
that you're
good sense.
representing a buyer. What? That you're representing a buyer.
I am?
I mean, that's what it sounds like. You said if this was not available, I'd go to another location.
Yeah, I would. I'm saying hypothetically, I would do that.
Yeah.
Yes, I would do that. But, you know, anybody would do that. I mean, that's just common sense. I'm just asking you to be part of that common sense scenario. And you're saying it makes good sense getting the representatives to put pressure on some entity somewhere. What are you talking about? Be specific.
I'm talking about as it relates to the North Carolina Department of Commerce.
Oh.
That's not going to get you any business. The commerce they're just big handshakers. I've worked in the industry. I've worked with finding sites for plants and things, you know, and it doesn't work anything like you guys think it is. Some politician is going to go out and get you a plant to do something and build something. That is not the real world. That is the Democrat and the liberal world that think everything runs on some kind of political influence. And I got news for you. In the world of money and investments, it doesn't.
Okay.
One more thing. The one charlatan I talked to didn't know that property even existed till I suggested it. So, and I did a great job of even getting a Chick-fil-A in there with it. I thought I did some really good negotiating because I thought the whole thing was ridiculous what he was talking about. But he never even knew that property existed over there.
You got hung up on Chick-fil-A. God bless us, everyone.
Put waters with the Chick-fil-A.
Okay, next on the agenda is the Public Works, West. You and Christina want to step up?
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Want to review the Saturday transfer station operations that was voted on in May to be included in the current fiscal year budget for $60,000 for the year. The purpose of that contract was to work with Republic Services for them to operate their transfer station every Saturday for 4 hours. So they're currently open every Saturday from 8 to 12 unless there's a major holiday that falls on that Saturday, which so far has not happened. We pay Republic Services $5,000 per month to provide a weekend disposal option for residents that are wishing to discard of construction and demolition waste. As you're aware, that type of waste is not accepted at our county collection sites, and we were receiving complaints that there was nowhere to take it because the transfer station wasn't open during the weekend. So that's why that came into being. The cost of actually disposing of each user's waste remains that person's responsibility. So they go to the transfer station, they cross the scales. When they come back out, they pay the fee for what they disposed of. All the county's doing is paying for the transfer station to be open. So as part of that agreement to do that, the board also voted to review usage data after 6 months. That's why I'm here tonight. We have a full 6 months worth of data. Let me just throw out there that the scheduling of the transfer station was publicized early. It was posted on Facebook, posted on the county website. It was available, Washington Daily News. I think it was in the paper. I know it was online because I looked that up. And it has been continuously posted on our solid waste page on the county website since then. Republic Services provided us weekly data regarding the number of cash customers disposing of C&D waste. The data did not identify the waste source, whether it was county resident versus non-county, or whether it was residential use versus contractor use. You see there on your agenda item, I provided a summary of the data below, and then we also attached a full weekly report. So 2 columns on that chart on the agenda item. First column you'll see is based on loads. The second column is based on tons. Let me again reiterate. We're just providing the tonnage information to give you a snapshot of what everything looks like. We pay nothing based on tonnage. It's all based on the time that it's open. So in the 6 months, there was a total of 113 uses on Saturdays, which averaged out to be 4.35 loads per Saturday. The high of that was 11 loads on 1 week, and 0 loads was the low. If you take that and divide half of the annual cost, which is $30,000, by the 113 loads, we essentially paid almost $266 per load for the transfer station to be open for those residents to use. If you look at the chart provided as well, you'll just see that breaks it down, shows you some graphical information. It's colored by the month. So July is red, August is blue, so forth. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about the data. However, I do just want to say that if changes are made, we do require, or the contract that we signed with the Republic does require 28 days written notice. So if any changes are made tonight, it will continue through January as is, because the last Saturday in January falls before the 20 days, and any changes would take effect in February. That being said, it is our recommendation that we discontinue this service. We just don't see it as an effective use of county funds. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Anyone have a question or a comment as it relates to the summary that Wes had just presented? Yes.
So I was one of those people that went on a Saturday because I work and they close at like 4 o'clock Monday through Friday. So a working man has no option to get rid of construction debris because we don't allow a 2x4 to go into the trash unless I take my saw and cut it up and put it in a black bag and throw it in with the rest of the trash. And we don't want that. I realize, and one of my things was I don't want to waste taxpayer money, but unless we go back to putting a dumpster at the site and let us put construction material in it, I don't like it. You know, I know people that go and do it. I know people that have no idea that that option exists. There's no signage. People don't understand it. We say we advertise it. How many people really read the Washington Daily News? How many people go on your website? It doesn't happen. It really don't. I realize we didn't have a lot of usage out of it, but I used it. My family members used it. So you can probably count 5 or 6 of these, go ahead and scratch them off, and that's my family that's used it. We paid our money and did it. But otherwise, what are we going to do with our stuff? You know, it's not right for me to have to take off because they're not open. Now, not open's another thing. They open. They're working on Saturday. The man's working on Saturday weighing his own stuff. So it's nothing out of their pocket. We're putting extra money in their pocket for them to be there. I know they're there. I'll stop and talk to the guy about it. He said, we're here every Saturday because they're rolling stuff in and out from the regular convenience sites. So, yeah, quite honest, you know, my contingent, people in my area want this site to be open. And that's the way I'm going to vote. I want the site to be open.
Randy?
Would it be cheaper to stay open later and not have Saturday services?
That has not been asked of Republic. We'd have to run that by them to see what the options are.
Yeah, nobody takes time to compliment, and I have had about 4 or 5, they sought me out and said, thank you for doing this. So, and I realize it's probably not a cash bonanza.
Another thing about the data is, Mr. Dunn, I'm glad you used it. That's great to hear. We don't know how many of these are repeat customers. We don't know if it's one person going every weekend. We don't know if it's 113 individual separate entities that are going in there.
Let me go back. Maybe I don't understand what's going on here. We paid them to be open 4 hours. And then we paid them. Why are we paying them this high cost to haul what they're open 4 hours for?
We are only paying, this contract is only paying for the operating hours. You're talking about the tonnage numbers?
We're paying $10,000 a month for
$5,000 a month.
$5,000 a month for them to be open 4 hours.
Every Saturday from 8 to 12. If you're looking at the tonnage numbers on your agenda item, that's just for information.
Information. Okay.
We're paying.
Okay, I got it now.
We're paying no additional dollars for waste.
So what can we do if we decide to keep this thing open that would reduce the cost? I mean, if they're there anyway, I mean, let's look at Walmart a minute. Walmart decided that there was going to be somebody there working all the time, so you could come in anytime you want to and buy something, somebody would ring you up and you could leave. It didn't, you know, they had a little additional revenue and it wasn't a high cost. It looks like that's what's going on out there. If they're there every Saturday, why don't we go back and try to negotiate something with them to get the price down so that we can provide the service?
My understanding is their prior work on Saturdays is not open to the public. They have a contractor there that's taking the waste that's coming in from county sites, and they're loading it in the trucks to be hauled up to Bertie County. So there was no
service personnel, if you will.
Right.
Well, okay,
I do not know about their scale attendant. I don't know if they have a computerized system for their own trucks on the weekend.
Okay, let's look at this like this for a minute. What does it cost to have one person out there come in 4 hours a week, even if it's overtime, and keep the place open and just weigh people in and take their money?
I do not know what their requirements are.
I mean, let's say 4 hours a week, and let's say that by the time we paid overhead and overtime and everything else, it was as much as $30 an hour. 4 times 3 is only $120 a week. Times 4 weeks is like $500 or $600 a month to do this. I mean, I appreciate what these guys are saying, and I do understand about working people being able to get there. I also see the low amount of interest in this, and that troubles me too. But what can we do to get the cost down?
I think it would take some further discussions with Republic. We approached them and said, what would it take to do this? And this is what they came back with.
I really think we should go back to them and say, what can we do to reduce the cost of this? Because you're not, can this person do other things for you while they're serving these 2 or 3 customers that come in every Saturday? I think we should have that kind of a discussion with them and see what we can do. I mean, they've always been pretty cooperative in the past. At least I think so. I don't deal with them. You guys do.
They still got to have somebody there to push this stuff back, don't they? I mean,
Sure.
after you put,
The contractor, but they're not running the scales.
Yeah, but you can't have a guy.
well, who's collecting the money?
You don't know who's
Is
qualified.
that
The scale attendant.
scale attendant?
They have a certified scale attendant.
you have to.
Now, I want to make sure, where does the revenue go?
The revenue goes to the company. I mean, we're not paying for any of the disposal costs. You're paying for that disposal.
So when I go across, that money goes to Republic.
That's correct. You were,
Okay.
the board, when you had this discussion 7 months ago, you said to staff, we want you to look at what it would do to operate on Saturdays so that we could have that. So that was what was done. Now, are there some opportunities? And again, they got you where they want you. I mean, they're the company, so they can say, it's $300 an hour. It's over $300 an hour. So, but they're the ones who have, it's their stuff. So they can tell you what it's going to cost you. And you can say, we don't like that all you want. I mean, there may be an opportunity to go back and have some discussion with them to say, what if we looked at 2 hours on a Friday afternoon or a Thursday afternoon and to extra. So then you got 2 hours of overtime every week for them. Maybe that works. Maybe their folks are working longer hours. Maybe they work till 6 already or something. I don't know. But there could be an opportunity to do that. But if you want 4 hours on Saturday, I think that's what you got. So there may be an opportunity to do something different.
Yeah.
But again, and we had this discussion with staff at our meeting, and this in effect shows clearly my conversation with our staff about this. Our job as staff is to look at this and say, this is the most efficient and effective means to do that. Your guys' job is to say, what will my constituents tolerate? And my constituents may not tolerate that. So I'm going to vote to pay that. And we may say to you, we don't recommend you do that. But that's the difference between staff and elected officials. So
I think we'll go back and try to negotiate.
And I was not here at the meeting when this was discussed previously, but the conversation that was had at that time, as well as the conversation that we've had with Republic, is obvious by the price that they gave us. It wasn't, they didn't desire to do this, to provide this service. And this $321 an hour reflects that. But the other thing that it also reflects that they told us is it's not just the scale attendant that's sitting there, because obviously that person is not making $321 even with the multiplier on it. But you also have additional people that are pushing. You also, the liability, because you now have the public that is driving on their property, the public that is getting out of their vehicle, the public that is walking on their concrete and going up to their walls and tipping things back. So when the pricing came down from Republic's management, they reflected in that number is an increase in the liability and things like that.
They have the same things going on during regular working, and I'll tell you what, you can start the conversation with them with. Some commissioners want to know when your contract renews.
And they are aware of that. And again, this is the number that was presented to you. This isn't necessarily the first number that Republic gave us. So staff has had this conversation with them. And this is what we were able to negotiate down to. So it's not
I'm
the
not
first time we
imputing-
don't take the first cost and say, oh,
I'm not
okay,
imputing staff, let's understand. We're trying to figure out how to negotiate a better deal for the
Yes, sir.
public.
I understand, and if that's what you want to go back to, as the manager said, perhaps a bit longer hours, extended hours, 1 or 2 days a week, or perhaps it's 1 Saturday a month in lieu of 4 Saturdays a month, something along those lines, we can certainly do that. But again, it's the appetite of the board as far as what it is that you would like for us to go back into price.
I think you should, look at the manager's suggestion, and my suggestion would be, is to do every other Saturday instead of every Saturday. So that'll put it there, 2 Saturdays a month. And that you should be able to cut the cost back on that.
Absolutely.
And I would ask them about extended hours, if that helps. I mean, they're there anyway to stay another hour.
We're just sending you back to renegotiate. Come back to us and see what you figure out.
Without driving discussion, you've heard our recommendation. I did have a discussion with Republic that one of the other options that we proposed when we presented this was to be open 1 Saturday a month. And that was for $1,250 per month. They did say that if we desired to make that change, that we could still do the same. So I'm sure if we wanted to do it every other Saturday, we're looking at half the cost of what we're doing. And of course, that's for the remainder of this year. We don't know what beyond June brings.
I like the idea of extended hours during the week that gets it past, 4 o'clock. I think if you're going to go back to them, we need to see what their reaction is. I'm hearing loud and clear, they really don't want to be open to the public on Saturday. That was based on this pricing that we've got. And I'm really disappointed that we only have, the problem you have is with every other Saturday is, how in the world people going to keep up with it? I mean, they tear something down and they're ready to go.
Yeah.
And then when they get there to the gate, guess what? It's locked.
Yeah. Best you can do is like the first Saturday and the third Saturday or the second Saturday or the fourth Saturday every month. If you do every other Saturday, it's very hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
I understand what Jerry was talking about.
I mean, to me, I would like to spend less money if this is all, I mean, we're not going to get that many customers to do the first Saturday of the month, and then also see what their reaction is to stay open, to say 6, maybe 1 day a week.
And if we make changes and nobody complains and, we just got the high ground now, we can do whatever. But I don't think that's going to be the case.
Well, I don't like the extended hours because Manny gets off at 5, works in Greenville, gets home at 5:30 and loads up, and he's in Bellhaven, and he drives all the way there. By the time he gets there, it's going to be locked. Now, I would highly suggest that whatever they decide to do, that maybe they put a sign up at the convenience sites that say, hey, construction materials may be left at Flanders Filter site on the first and third Saturday of the month between these hours. And maybe they pick up a few more, because I know for years, the site over by Jerry's mom and dad's where I live, I flew 2x4s in that site for years. And then also one day they said, hey, you can't do that no more. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? And they said, well, you got to go to Flanders Filters Road. Well, that's great. I didn't know that. I was disappointed. So, things change and we all got to get along and figure it out. But the people don't understand that those are changes a lot. Now, you got somebody that's building houses, they understand that. But they also are working building houses between 8 and 4. But the guy that's working in Greenville or working at Nutrin and he gets off at 4 o'clock, he ain't got time to get there in time to do something when he's been working on a project all weekend long, building a new deck or something on his house. So,
Commissioner Dunn, that's absolutely a valid point. I mean, getting signage at the convenience sites, that's something that can easily be done. So that's not an issue.
Once you get something to work.
Yes, sir. And we can do that. We have signs, if anyone has been to the collection sites recently, we have invested in some signs that the panels are changeable so that we're able to update. And Wes goes and switches those out so that people don't always see the exact same sign, something different, so it registers. So we can certainly have a sign made that shows that. And regarding, again, going back to the history of why we are in this, if the county doesn't own a transfer station or a landfill, so we're at the mercy of the private industry. And the reason that the 2x4s and this change was made was because our tonnage was increasing at such a high pace that it was difficult to keep the revenues to keep up in order to pay for the disposal. So again, it was trying to make sure that it was only residential C&D that was being disposed of and not commercial. So again, the changes were not made to make people's lives difficult. The changes were made so that we could sustain the disposal costs.
I understand. Would it be fair for us not to take any action and for you to sit down with Republic and just ask them, first of all, what's your recommendation? You know, that we're concerned about the high cost.
So I think in that, obviously, we can continue to have conversations with them. You can't do anything this month anyway, because in the contract it says it goes for 20 days. So that'll have to play out through January. And then we can come back to you in February and say, you know, you already know if you want to do it one Saturday a month, it's going to cost this. If you want to do 2 Saturdays a month, it's going to cost you this. They may say, no, we've got no appetite at all to do something after hours. We can't extend our hours. So you may be just down to doing what you're doing, which they're happy with, or doing, you know, one. It all depends upon volume. So if you want to do it 1 Saturday a month, or you want to do it 4 Saturdays a month.
I think we just send them back, let them report to us next month, and we'll make a decision.
Well, I think if you just say, you know, we want to be able to serve our citizens better, and we just need some options, and we think this is very expensive to do it every Saturday. It's kind of,
And when we make the change to keep the data like this was great. This told us exactly what we needed to know.
I hate to do this, Christina, but we're gonna take a break since you're already here, and you got to be here too. So
That's right.
we're gonna take a 10-minute break.
I believe last meeting, this item was discussed. It was part of a larger discussion regarding ARPA funding, and the water projects that were previously funded were brought up, and people were asking for an update on the project. So I'm here to give that today. I did listen to that discussion, and it's a little disappointing. These projects were not put on hold by me. They were not put on hold because I didn't want to finish it or didn't have time to do it. They were put on hold by a vote of the commissioners. So no problem with that. There have been many other things that have been going on since that time. So I'd like to give you an update on these items today. So what you can see is originally there were 6 projects that were funded with the ARPA funds. A SCADA system replacement project, water line extension in the Swan Point Mobile Home Park, and then the projects that were then tabled by the commissioners were installing elevated storage tank mixers and the installation of some directional drills, specifically the ones on Highway 99, and then various line upgrades at different places throughout the system, and then also addressing some issues that we had at railroad crossings. So again, these projects are still viable projects, still projects that need to go. I've actually, after the conversation last month, I contacted engineering firms regarding these projects. So if the commissioners vote to put these back on, to go ahead with these projects, staff will immediately start these projects and move forward with them.
My understanding is these are ARPA funds that are sitting there already, if you will, set aside. It's not like we're appropriating new money or something. We just held them. And some of these are important projects. I'm concerned about the Highway 99, some of those broken lines that run under creeks, because what you're going to wind up, most of this system is looped. And if you have another break in the loop, you wind up with something that's isolated that you can't serve. You need to go ahead and fix these things before they become a real problem.
Yes. Entertain the motion. So moved. Second. Okay. Okay, got a motion, second. Any further discussion?
The money's still allocated for me.
Yes, sir. The money's, it's in the, project funds, and yes, sir, it's allocated and ready to go.
All right, Sandy. Dean, I won't hear. What's the elevated mixer?
They are our elevated storage tanks that are located throughout the county. They have a single feed in, so you go in and then it's, there are different types of mixers that you can put in, and it's basically exactly what it sounds like. It's a mixer so that the water inside of the bowl of the tank is mixed so that it doesn't settle, so you have chlorinated and non-chlorinated water. So it keeps the water quality up.
Yes.
And you're correct. I think memory serves it well that they were put on hold because because they're waiting for the price to go down. Am I correct?
Commissioner Rebholz made the motion, yes, sir, due to the fluctuation of pricing and the increase in
And
price.
the
Yes, sir.
X amount of dollars has been allocated for these projects.
Yes, sir.
So what happens if you get on a project and the price has escalated instead of
Then I will bring it back to the commissioners.
for more money?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Got anybody else? All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand.
Thank you.
And to emergency services, I guess Chris, you're gonna handle the assistance firefighters grant.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I apologize for the last minute change on presenters. DC is on the way back from a fire investigation in Aurora, so he was unable to make it on time. Two items before you tonight. The first being the Assistance for Firefighters Grant. If you all may recall, this has traditionally been a grant that we have sought funding for Viper radios and improving our cache of radios throughout the county. What we have found in a review of that process over the last 2 years is there were no communication equipment approved by AFG over the last 2 years. So we had no indication that would change for this coming year. So we had to start looking at other needs that we as a county may have that would fit the purview of that grant. One is funding that would allow for the purchase of a fully equipped ambulance for 911 transports. And we have seen over the past 2 years where this particular grant has awarded those to municipalities and counties who are struggling with the growing pains of an expanding EMS system, which we fit that category, particularly this past year with our expansion into Blunt's Creek, as well as the absorption of Pamlico Beach. So what we are asking permission for, and back up just a moment, as we have in the past, any grant that we are pursuing that requires county funds or some type of local match, we bring to you for your approval before we ever submit the application. And that's what we are here asking for your permission to do tonight. This is a 90-10 matching, so 90% federal grant, 10% local match. The total for this ambulance is coming to $458,427. Now, that's a sticker shock, especially when you look at the past prices of ambulance. One thing to note on this is fully equipped. So this includes the truck, a $55,000 cardiac monitor, a $60,000 stretcher and lift system. So we're doing everything as if when we receive it, we can put it in service minus the staffing. So what that would bring would be $412,000 on the federal grant, $45,842 on the local match if it is approved. This application, the review process typically begins in the spring, and we will not receive any type of feedback on the status of that application probably until we get into the summer. That's important to note because we may not know this as we go into budget conversations, whether this is going to come to an award status or not. So we're asking for the board's permission to apply for this grant.
Got a motion. Question.
Okay, I got one question. Sure. You're going to be sure that we've got an industrial grade undercarriage. We're not buying that cheap stuff that the salesman sells.
These are the commercial chassis. The most common that's used by manufacturers now are the Ford van chassis. But yes, they have
Heavy
commercial
duty,
chassis.
not, because that's where we've had trouble before. So I want to make sure of that. The second question I have is, do we have a standard design color layout for a county ambulance? Because every time I see something, it's different. So, somebody, and if we need to vote to have a standard, then we need to vote.
Right.
'Cause
So
I don't like what's going on.
We do have a standard, and for us, so Beaufort County EMS, the ambulances that we as a county pay for and staff, our frontline units are white ambulances with the gray. It's a reflective gray striping that's highlighted by gold.
Does it look like what's in the presentation?
That's exactly right. So the picture that's included in your presentation is an example of our standard appearance scheme of our ambulances. Now, where you'll see a notice is our reserve ambulances, the older ambulances. And if you remember when Beaufort County EMS initially came into existence, we had green lettering. We still have one of those reserves that are green that you will see from us. Now, the other contracted agencies, Broad Creek, Chocowinity, Aurora, they do their own paint schemes. That's not standardized under us. But those are individually contracted agencies, and they do their own appearance packages on their ambulances.
Okay, I don't want to repaint anything. I just want to be sure we're.
All of our vehicles will default to white in paint. And that the lettering that you see represented in your pictures. Yes, sir.
Anyone else?
Yeah, how about a consideration of maybe the county seal on the door?
Okay.
Think about that. I mean, it's a different color, but it says something.
Sure.
Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor of allowing staff to apply for the grant to purchase the EMS truck, raise your right hand.
All right. Thank you, Commissioners.
You want to go to your next?
Sure. We'll move to the second one. The second is also another grant opportunity. This falls under the state and local cybersecurity grant program. This is that program, as the name represents, is things that counties or municipalities can do to kind of beef up the resiliency of their infrastructure, particularly when you're talking about internet and connectivity. One of the things that we have looked at as a useful component for us is a product called a DENS system. So imagine a suitcase that you can open up. It utilizes Starlink for internet connectivity, but you open this suitcase up, you hit power on your Starlink, and you can connect your network phones, all of your IT devices. It has the ability to run phone systems, I think up to like 238 phones per box. We have seen this be very useful in other areas across the state, both in local disasters. So to give you an example, I believe it is Terrell County that has the closest one to us. Anytime we're running search operations in these rural areas, particularly when we're in the water or wilderness, connectivity is always an issue, and those boxes work awesome for it. The most recent exposure we've had to it has been in the mountains, where your infrastructure was non-existent or depleted, and these were components that they were able to bring into buildings and get very large municipal footprints up and going pretty quickly with these devices. This particular grant is a 70-30 match. Our application intent would be for 2 of these suitcases with a Starlink connection plan for 3 years. Now, Starlink, typically what most people relate to Starlink is the monthly subscription for service. They offer a subscription to emergency services that is not monthly based. You buy essentially 250 gigs and you can turn that switch on and off whenever you need it. And whenever you deplete that 250, you can renew it again. It carries over from year to year. It does not expire. That's what we would quote for this system, because we certainly don't want to pay, $125, $150 a month for something that we may not use, but we want the ability to turn that switch on quickly. So this particular grant, the prices that you see before you, $50,000 for 2 of these boxes, would be matched 35 with the federal funds and $15,000 for us locally. And again, this is just permission to apply. The timing on the review of this application is typically faster than your AFG. And we would anticipate hearing something back on this, probably that April to May timeframe. So it's very likely that we can have at least more information on this as we get into the budget process.
What are the Starlink fees?
This is where DC is more familiar with it, so I can give you kind of a summary.
About what are they?
About $125 to $150 a month if you're doing the
Per
monthly
box?
service per box. Now the 250 gig that's got the on-off switch, I'm not for sure of that price, but I'll be happy to get it.
Okay, the Starlink, that's that Elon Musk satellite thing that's going to work whether the towers are working or the power's on here or off.
That's correct.
Okay.
As long as the satellites are circling the globe. Exactly.
Okay. You have a motion and a second. Anybody else with a question? All those in favor, raise your right hand.
All right. May I ask one more question?
Sure. Sure.
This is going to be under the control of EMS department.
It'd be under the control of emergency services. We will have one that will be assigned to our command trailer so it can be quickly deployed anywhere, and one that will remain in the office. And if it's needed anywhere in county or municipal government, we can deploy it quickly. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Anita, we're going to the Washington Elementary School reimbursement. Question number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My item begins on page 221. We are at a point in time where we're ready to submit the first reimbursement request from the granting agency at the state level for expenditures associated with the Washington Elementary School construction project. You can see those expenditures total $1,868,819.14. The county share of that will be $359,373.92. And then the grant portion of that from the state is the $1,509,445.22. And just to briefly walk you through what those 1.8 million of expenditures are, if you will turn to page 223, I've provided you with an Excel spreadsheet summarizing those expenditures. So of course, the main expenditure we have is for the planning and design and construction documents and construction bidding work that was done by Height and Associates totaling $1,798,905. That's the total invoice amount. And then beside that, you can see what portion of that the state will pay from the grant and what portion will be the county share. Height has also paid some other items that is listed under listed under other that are reimbursable to him. The first probably 7 or 8 items there, the Greater Diversity News, the C3 Legals, and all those Speedy Blue invoices. That is for advertising and printing costs, and they total $5,573.89. And then there are 2 invoices to Sorrell Land Surveying for survey work totaling $30,531.25. And then you see the multiple invoices there to Bolton and Mink for the traffic study work that they performed. They total $28,959. And then the last 3 are miscellaneous items. The $3,300 was to, let me see. That is to DEQ, NCDEQ, Department of Environmental Quality for an erosion and settlement permit. And then the $1,500 was to the City of Washington for the stormwater permit review. And then the $50 was to NCDOT for some type of permit that was needed from them. So in summary, we've got vendors that have performed over $1.8 million worth of work. It's time to get them paid. My recommendation is that we go ahead and requisition the grant funds from the state. Once we get that in, back from the state, then I'll be able to pay the vendors with that 1.452 million that we're getting from the state. And of course, we've already set aside our county share that's needed to pay the county match. Any questions?
Yeah, well, why not draw down the state's fund first and our funds last?
That's not the way it works. It's if you go back and look on page 222,
Is that the agreement with the state that it'll be proportionally
that
drawn?
is part of the grant agreement. If you look at page 222, this is the actual state distribution request form, and it breaks down the local share. So if you go about middle way of the page, it says in bold, local matching fund requirement. Well, none of those apply to us. So you can see source of funds that we typed it out. The local match is 19.23%. And the remaining amount is the grant amount. So, and it's on a one basis or prorated on each invoice. In other words, you can't draw down the state amount and then pay with county funds and whatever's left.
Is this prorated? They were going to give us back 1.4 million. So, while we appropriated 10 million based upon their budget, it was actually 8.6 million. So is this prorated for the 8.6 million, or is this prorated for us to spend our whole 10 million?
No, this is on the lesser amount. So the reason we anticipated that there would be a transfer back to the general fund, and I think it was a little over 2 million.
Was it?
Is because we anticipate the project coming in at less than 52 million. So there'll be money left over.
Okay, so we're prorated, so we're going to still have our 2 million sitting there after all this is paid.
We're going to have an amount left. I can't promise it's going to be 2 million, but that's what it's.
Well, what have they said in their budgets, what we should have
That's what
left?
it's estimated at right now. Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right.
So we would need a motion then to, okay, thank you.
Okay, we've got a motion, second.
Mr. Chairman, Brandon would like for you to turn your mic on, please.
Thank you. I apologize, Brandon.
So the motion is actually to authorize the chairman to sign the reimbursement request, authorize me to submit the request package to the state, and then once we get the money from the state, pay Height and Associates for the services they perform, plus all those reimbursable expenses that we just talked about under the other category.
Is that in agreement with the people that made the motion and second?
Yes.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay.
Okay, the next item I have is on page 242. So you may remember back in 2021 when interest rates were so artificially low, we refinanced all the county debt that we could, and we have ridiculously low debt rates on everything, less than 2% on all of our outstanding installment notes, the bonds, everything except for this one item for the 117 West 3rd Street property, which is also commonly known as the Francisco building. So we could not refinance this building at the time in 2021. It did not become callable until October of 2024, within the last couple of months. So now we're able to prepay and pay this off, and that's what I'm recommending that we do, that we take, let me get the right amount here,
87,854 and $600 in estimated interest.
that is what the payoff will be. We actually only need to appropriate fund balance of 81,516 to pay it off, because we have some current debt service that is already budgeted that will be used to pay it off as well, to be added to that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to pay off the mortgage on the Francisco building. Anybody got a question? All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Okay, thank you very much.
Those opposed?
So my last item is on page 256. You may remember when the auditor was here last month, we did have a financial audit finding. And if you have a financial audit finding, you are required to write a letter to the LGC describing your response and how you plan to correct the finding that you had in your audit. So if you'll remember back, basically what happened is we had two incidences, and this is under the middle part of page 256. We had two instances where things were just recorded improperly. So we have those DEQ grants that Public Works has going on, and they're both funded with grant and loans. Most of them are 50-50 grant, 50% grant, 50% loan. So what happened was when we got those funds, it was recorded improperly, and I believe it was recorded as loan proceeds instead of grants. So we had to fix that. The other item that was misrecorded was the broadband was put in the ARPA Special Revenue Fund instead of the County General Fund Project Fund. So we had to fix that, move that. And then the third item was we missed recording two leases under GASB 87. So we fixed the miscodings. I've documented a process to better account for leases, and so that hopefully nothing falls through the cracks again with them in future years.
You self-reported that.
We self-reported everything that we found. Yeah, basically I found mistakes after year end and told the auditor that we had missed something and needed to record it. Yes, sir.
We entertain a motion to approve the response.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions of Anita? All those in favor, raise your right hand.
So just one other thing about the letter, you might notice that 4 of your names are listed here. The letter has to be signed by me, the county manager, and a majority of the board. So the 4 that are listed, I'll be getting you a copy to sign. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're down to vacant planning board position discussion. Bud?
Well, there's a vacant planning board position that's out there for some time, and it needs to be filled, and I just want to know why we're not, thank you, why we're not filling it and what we need to do to fill it.
I sent an email to Josh, just asking for some more information on that because I was not aware that there was a position open, and he has not responded back to me yet. I will send him another email tomorrow because the planning board has different seats that have to be specific to. Sometimes it can be when you guys, citizen at large, business, those kinds of things. So I need to find out what position it is.
Does the ordinance say that, or is that just something that we came up with as a policy? I meant to look in the ordinance and I forgot to before I came over
I
here.
looked at that, so I'll have
We need to look at that because I think that is a rule of thumb that we have been using. I don't think there's anything in the ordinance that says you have to be from a specific place. It's just something that people thought was a good idea way back when. And if that's not the case, we need to find somebody to fill the position because they're having trouble having a quorum in order to do business.
Okay.
And Josh is the one that told me about the vacancy, so maybe when
He didn't tell me.
well, he's been busy lately, so and maybe if we give him a little bit of help with the board, things will get better.
Okay.
But that's all that is.
Okay. You want to go to your next item on the budget workshops?
And when he responds, would you just send us an email and let us know? The planner, Josh Hollis, the planner that's contracted with Mideast. The information request during budget workshops. This is a motion that the school board produce a list and cost of each curriculum program purchased during the budget year. These things are $300,000 and $400,000 a piece. They're not buying these things and not telling us about it. They're not using textbooks in some of these courses. And some of the stuff that's in these programs are pure garbage that they're buying and using. And I want to know more about them for budget purpose. And the second part of the motion is a list of courses taught without the use of textbooks. That's a motion.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
We've got a elected school board that makes these decisions. I don't even know that this is our, I mean, we deal with buildings and property of the schools, but I don't think we get into the curriculum business. So, I don't see where we need to be there because we got a school board that doesn't. We got people that go to school to learn how to pick out good curriculum.
Well, I beg to disagree with you because we, the taxpayers of Beaufort County, fund the school board. We represent the taxpayers. We take the taxpayers' money and we give it to the school board based upon how they say that they are going to spend it. This is a simple request for how are you spending this money? Because during the past couple of years, they have come up with $400,000 for some liberal, communistic programs, calling them curriculum programs. They're teaching things that most people in Beaufort County that I talk to don't want their children to learn. So asking for the school board to provide information on how the county money is spent, there is nothing in the world wrong with that. And I realize your wife's on the school board and you're protecting and defending her because she's one of the people that's making a lot of these bad decisions.
Well, you know, a lot of this curriculum money comes from federal sources and state sources, and I don't know they have too much of a choice on some of this stuff.
Yes, they do, because the curriculum committee that's sponsored by the Conservative Club has looked into this, and we have found out that school boards have a lot more authority to select curriculums than what the school board is telling us.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to say this. Considering how our education system is diminished in the last number of decades, and it's just precipitously falling, a little bit every year, a little bit every year. COVID went a long ways towards taking it down, but people that organized this whole COVID thing, I think Hood called it a hoax. A lot of people died, but it was used. It was manufactured in a lot of respects. They took it down even further. I think it's wise and prudent for this board, who taxes the people of Beaufort County at an alarming rate, our number one beneficiary being the school system. We need to know all we can know. And the school board needs to know we're looking over the shoulder. We're a lot higher elected folks than they are. And they need to know we're just watching. A lot of things are going to be changing in this nation. We just had an election. We're finding out all kinds of initiatives that are happening now, even before the new president takes office, and we're going to see some monumental changes, and those monumental changes I predict will continue for some time to come until this ship rights itself, because we are foundering.
Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Okay, those opposed? Okay, good. We're down to the Hurricane Helene, and I think that we've got an insert or
the manager is giving his report on the item about progress in the rural dust park. We're up to speed on that. The Hurricane Helene, I think the manager has given us a report. It looks like how much was the total money that we spent donated out of the county by sending assistance to the western part of the state without a vote of this board?
So the only non-reimbursed emergency services support was a total of $825, and that was authorized by my office.
Okay.
The remaining funds are mission funds, which will be reimbursed by FEMA. Now, the sheriff's office, they were working through the Sheriff's Association, so we don't necessarily have mission numbers for them yet. But we do know that all of our stuff that you have listed on that second page, you have the mission number and the dates and who was there, and you show that they are FEMA reimbursed.
So we don't have all of the information for what the sheriff's office donated?
Well, I mean, we know that we have the list of the sheriff's members and when they went to Madison County, but they were working through the Sheriff's Association on getting mission numbers or getting approval from FEMA and those kind of things. We didn't have any control over that. They weren't running through state EM. They were running through the Sheriff's Association.
The Sheriff's Association doesn't tax people in Beaufort County. These commissioners tax people in Beaufort County. And if funds are expended and volunteer efforts are made, that should come before this board for approval. And that did not happen in this case. Bureaucrats took it upon themselves to make a lot of decisions and donate a lot of things and go to the western part of the state and have videos made of themselves that they can use later on when they campaign for public office. So, yeah, I have a problem with this. This was totally mishandled as far as this Board of Commissioners is concerned.
So the sheriff is an elected official, and he essentially has control over his office and what his office does. You provide him a budget, and as long as he's doing within the state law of what he's doing, he can do that. However, I don't know how he's making videos or whatever, but the only funds that came out of this, which were at my direction, were the non-reimbursable support services of $825. So if you have an issue with the sheriff, I'm hoping it's just an issue with the sheriff. I'm hoping it's not an issue with us providing $825 worth of services to the folks in the western part of the state.
Well, Mr. Manager, the issue that I have is with your attitude that because someone is an elected official that they're allowed to spend money however they want to. All of the budgeting, all of the money that's handled, this is state law, comes through this Board of County Commissioners. Without prior approval, no public official has the authority to divert those funds or to use them for anything other than what was put in the budget for. And Hurricane Helene did not show up in our budget.
No, you're wrong, Commissioner Richardson.
I'm sorry, we totally disagree.
We do, and I'm right. The sheriff's budget is provided to him, and state law says that he can do with that budget what he wants to do with that budget. You restrict him by certain line items. This board has put together a budget ordinance, which is the controlling document of how you spend money. It restricts his funding to personnel, operations, and capital. And as long as he stays within those, and as long as he is using that for a public purpose, then he can spend it as he chooses. He is an elected official, and that is the law. So you don't have control over that.
Mr. Manager, don't you prepare the sheriff's budget and present it to us and ask us to approve it?
The budget in the budget ordinance, Commissioner Richardson, is controlled at the FTE level. It's controlled at the operational level for function and for personnel and for capital. And as long as he stays within those, that's what the ordinance is. So I have no control over how he spends that money. If he wants to go spend money on vehicles, as long as he stays within the purchasing limits that this board has set up, and as long as he can buy whatever he wants. I mean, that's how it works.
I'm sorry, we're in total disagreement. That's not how the budget is intended to work. That's not how the state law works. And the sheriff cannot take the money and spend it for whatever he wants to spend it for. Now, let me point out one other thing too. Let me finish. You provide us with a very fat budget for the sheriff. There are always 7 or 8 extra positions in that budget that no sheriff has filled for the last 15 years. Your office allows him to appropriate those funds wherever he wants to. So you're being disingenuous when you sit there and try to tell me that that's how it works, because you are the person that provides the fat and the surplus to be wasted, and without the approval of this Board of County Commissioners.
So again, I appreciate the back and forth, Commissioner Richardson. I will tell you that we spend money in accordance with state law and in accordance with the Local Budget and Fiscal Control Act. And I also remind you that I present to this board a recommended budget. It is not my budget once it's adopted by this board. You can cut as many of those positions as you want out, or you can add as many as you want. You get my recommended budget. So the ultimate budget is this board's budget. So obviously this board wanted that budget. The majority of this board approved that budget.
Yes, make it quick.
I mean, I'm not chiming in over this, but Mr. Manager, I want to tell you something. What have you done for the people of Western Carolina? Please do it again if the need arises. I don't have no problem. This board, $800 is a small amount to pay when people are suffering and suffering and suffering like those people. And he said, Commissioner Richardson said clearly, it's a board's decision, not his. But I'm not saying it for this board, I'm saying it for me. I thank you for what you've done for Western North Carolina.
Commissioner Booth, we try to make sure that our expenditures are mission driven so that they can be reimbursed. These were two opportunities where you see that our staff looked hard. They used exempt overtime employees. So we didn't have an hourly employee taking a trip up there to deliver supplies. We had non-exempt overtime, non-exempt people. So they were on the clock for 100 hours and didn't cost us anything more. And all we did was we paid for fuel. What I would say to you is I appreciate the comment, and we would not go, we wouldn't do something extravagant, but these were opportunities to help out targeted areas. And what I would say is I certainly hope that the people of North Carolina would not take this discussion in the wrong way, because I can assure you that Beaufort County has been the recipient of aid from across the state of North Carolina, a whole lot more than we provided to the western part of North Carolina. We get hit by hurricanes all the time, and folks are nice enough to come and help us, and we repay that every once in a while. So I would certainly hope that people would not judge us based on a couple of comments that I don't think are indicative of how this community responds.
Amen. All right, my complaint is not about helping people. My complaint is about our procedural and our management of the situation, with funds being expended that commissioners don't have control of and don't know about it, and funds being diverted from what they were originally intended for in the budget.
So again, Commissioner Richardson, the budget is being expended in a manner that's appropriate, legal, and the way the Local Budget Fiscal Control Act requires it. And what I would say to you is unless the board wants to take additional action related to the budget ordinance, the board has oversight authority, but the board does not have day-to-day operational authority of how we run our budget.
Okay, Katie, will you read us into closed session?
Yep. Motion is needed to go into closed session under NCGS 143-318-11-5 to establish, to instruct the public body staff or negotiation agents concerning the position to be taken by or on behalf of the public body in negotiating the price and other material terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property by purchase, option, exchange, or lease, or the amount of compensation and other material terms of an employment contract or proposed employment contract.
So moved.
Okay, got a motion and a second to go into closed session. All those in favor, raise your right hand. We're reconvening from our closed session, and I need a motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
Second. Got a motion and a second to come out. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. I need a motion on taking action.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I move that we proceed with due diligence for the proposed purchases of the two parcels of land, subject to any comments or problems that the closing attorney discovers in her examination.
And we have a second. All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Thank you. Okay, we're down to commissioner comments. Is there any commissioner that would like to make a comment? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Oh, okay. Sorry.
I just wanted to recognize Jesse Powers Jr., who was a 100-year-old veteran that passed away recently. He served on the Chocowindy Planning Board, a veteran of World War II, a member of Baptist Church in Chocowindy, served on the Deacon Board, was also on Chocowindy's Planning Board, a fine Christian man, and a lot of y'all know him as Mr. Belt Tyler. And he was very active up until the very end. Loved fishing, loved hunting, and loved old cars. And so I'd like to recognize his service to the community and to his country.
Hallelujah. Thank you. Okay.
Nicely done, Danny.
Did I get a motion to adjourn?
No, but you got it now.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.